Today, I took my Voodoo Bizango Carbon to some local blue graded trails. In this video, I'll show you how the bike performed as well as listing some of the pros and cons I found whilst riding. So these trails contain a mix of flowing berms and small technical features, which should be perfect for this hardtail with its trail geometry. One immediately noticed pro for this bike is how efficiently it puts the power down when out of the saddle sprinting. This means you get up to speed nicely, and those 29-inch wheels help to maintain this momentum. So I don't actually have a dropper post on this bike yet, but even with the saddle up, you can still get into a really strong attack position. This means the bike feels nice and balanced if any air is obtained, and can also accelerate when pumping into features. On the landing, the impact is relatively hard felt through the rear wheel. This is most likely due to the stiff carbon frame. While this would normally be fine, it does reveal a weakness in this bike's design, and that's with the stock wheels. So as with most stock 29-inch wheels at this price point, there is a concerning amount of flex in the rims. I'll show you a clip at the end of this video with me casing the bike really hard. So this has subsequently sent the rear wheels slightly out of true. However, I would like to point out that this will probably happen with any wheel set, and I'm truly impressed that the wheels didn't buckle altogether at my weight. So next, the bike corners really well in those berms, and the Maxxis tyres have got plenty of grip. Here I'm taking my usual high line through the rocky section, and while this is fine on my full suspension bike, it really takes the speed out when on the Bizango. This is one other potentially negative thing that I noticed, and that is that the suspension has quite a high sticking force. So this is the minimum force that is required to significantly compress the suspension, and while this is great for sprinting out of the saddle, it does very quickly take it out in your hands when going down sections such as this. I sort of expected this, and it is actually a blessing in disguise as it forces you to make more intelligent line choices on the trail. So one thing that I thought I had solved on this bike is the cable noise, but there is still a significant amount of cable chatter and frame noise, and it's something that I will try and sort out before my next video, as then I can include the audio from the ride footage without really annoying everybody. So despite some of the negative things that I've mentioned here, I was actually really impressed with the bike's performance in this section of the trail. So moving on to the second trail, here the bike's cornering and handling was up to the test. Although I was initially not impressed with the Ardent tyres in my first impressions video, I was truly blown away with them on the trail. It was immediately clear that, as usual, it was my skill level that was holding the bike back here. In sections where normally my other full suspension bike would make up for my lack of skill, I was really having to focus on picking the right lines and improving my technique. Which, to be totally honest, is one of the main reasons that I bought this bike in the first place. I think that this bike is very capable on blue trails such as this, and can give you a slightly different perspective on how to ride them. I would suggest being slightly conservative with speed to begin with, especially if you're coming from a longer travel full suspension bike. So by the end of my day riding here, I was feeling much more confident riding this bike on trails, and actually feeling ready to take on some more challenging red trails. After we were done riding here, we headed out on more of an XC ride, and on the way back I decided to really open up the speed on a section that I thought I knew really well. Unfortunately, I completely forgot about this hidden dip in the road that was only visible a few sections before I was completely on top of it. As you can see, in my panic I failed to hop over it properly, catching my back wheel on the edge of the dip, although I was fortunate enough to save the back end from sliding out, along with my pride. After inspecting the frame, I can confirm that there was no visible damage. Of course, I would need something like a laser speckle interferometer to determine if there was any internal cracks that have formed in the composite. I also noticed how much of a beating my custom 3D printed chain guard had taken, so I'm really glad that I made this before I went out on the trail. So in the next few weeks I'm going to take this bike to some proper red graded trails to really put the bike to the test, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please consider leaving a like and a comment. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and ride safe.